With a brand new pack comes a brand new Master Duel meta, and so let's talk about the top 5 best decks right now. If you enjoy content like this, make sure to subscribe. I want to have 100,000 subscribers. At the current rate, it will take 10.5 years, so please let's speed that up. On number 5, we have Vanquish Soul. Now, if I'm being real, I'm not the biggest fan of this deck, not because I dislike the cards. I actually think they were cool. I really like some of the art as well. Mad Love is a really cool card as well. But my bigger issue is that this deck is mostly like shifter reliant, I feel. In the current format, where we all know Snake Eye is of course a crazy deck, being able to just shifter them and often semi-pass their turn is kind of what makes this deck real. As well as, you know, some other decks in this top 5 not really liking to see shifter. But this deck's end board actually isn't that crazy. What is, however, very good about it is that infinite follow-up cycle. You know, Raisin with Stake Your Soul, Xiaolong, keep on adding cards, keep on drawing cards. You basically have like this big resource loop going on with a pretty minimal end board. Now, if you get to combo, which is also a big question mark, like this deck isn't that consistent, only one pot of prosperity in the game right here. But if you get to combo, usually the board is like good enough, given that you'll also have like access to other non-engine. You drew a bunch of cards and shifter, you know, gives you those random auto wins. Also fun how Trident is an actual thing in here because of Master Duel. But so overall, this feels like the anti-deck rather than a really insane deck on its own right now. On number 4, and I'm gonna have to be honest, usually I tend to make these lists based on my experience playing the TCG, playing a little bit of Master Duel, and just seeing what's available. But recently, I've also been looking at Master Duel meta, and the thing that actually has blown my mind is that the 4th best deck according to their statistics is Lament. Alright, let's talk about this. So right here, there's really no big surprises in terms of tier cards. As you know, I played that deck a billion hours in TCG and then another billion hours in Master Duel. And there's like no big special tech going on. Like I do notice that there's more and more people going for the Amritara routes because the deck is lacking like a lot of starters. So being able to Amritara into Pearl Rhino is cute. People catching on to Shooting Riser Dragon is really cool. This is something I've tried a bunch as well, being able to go like Destrudo with any of your level 4s into Shooting Riser, and then Shooting Riser either dumps Fairy Tail Snow, which is something we only have in Master Duel, which is an amazing form of disruption, but also Shufflers if you already have access to the Snow, then turning into a level 3, which means together with Tier Cash or Fenrir, you are now able to make your Baron. Those plays are cool, but that by itself, I don't know, doesn't really make this deck that crazy. Also, the primary non-engine people are choosing seems to be Super Poly, but Super Poly into the Snake Eyes board actually isn't that great unless you misuse your interrupts and then make like Dragon Equist out of the Borreload plus Baron or something like that. But so that feels like a really weird choice unless you're using it specifically maybe on Branded, but are you not getting locked? Maybe you use it on another deck that we'll be talking about very soon. I don't know. It seems so odd, but it is apparently, from tournament stats, the 4th best deck right now. We're gonna have to see if that stays though. I don't know. I'm a big tier fanboy, but I'm having a tough time seeing exactly what's making this deck tick right here. We also don't have Merly, so we're usually just making like Kid Kalos into Rule Kalos and calling it a day. And then our other cards are trying to make like the Baron and maybe a Dweller. But even then, you know, Dweller into Snake Eyes, they have so many hand traps. The odds that you're even getting to this plus a board is so small. But hey, it is what it is. I love to see some tier representation. If we look at a top 8 deck here, we see it's also being splashed with Snake Eye, and that grass looks greener. And wow, it's probably then tries to make Curious with the dangers and stuff. Let's see. Yeah, okay, so they make Curious. All right, this person cooked. If this is how this deck has been topping, wow, okay, I guess. On number 3, we have Branded. Of course, Branded is basically the deck that cannot die. They will hit it a billion times. I've said it time and time again. They will hit another card, another card, another card, and it will just, it's like a Hydra. The heads will keep on coming out. You know, Aluber at 2, that's fine, we'll just play the 2. Brand Fusion at 1, that's fine, we'll just play the 1. Opening at 1, it's fine, we'll just keep on playing the 1. Not much has changed. We do see that in half of Branded decks, they're playing That Grass Looks Greener, which means half of the Branded decks are actually 60 card variants. That is probably to then also have access to like Nadir's Servant, which is another starter, because you are kind of dealing with like limited starters right here. They're also playing Thrust. Maybe a bunch of them are Blinding Second, or they're relying on, you know, Fusion Duplication out of Thrust into Branded Branded Fusion on the opponent's turn if they get hand trapped by Snake Eyes, because let's be real, Snake Eyes is going to hand trap you a billion times. However, if you then look at the top 4 list right here, we can see that that's also a 60 card version. Okay, that's very interesting. Also playing the Keeper of Dragon Magic. This was a little tech I actually tried to do in paper at one point. You were doing like big Dragoon combos with it, which was really funny, together with a small Preda Plant package. It can be kind of bricky and pretty ass going second, but going first it was a crazy line maker. But I guess in this list, as you can see, there's no Preda engine, so in this list they're just trying to use it as another form of a Luber, which is fine enough as well. Now on number 2, we have a new contender. As you know, we recently got Transaction Rollback, a crazy card for, well, a bunch of decks, but mostly Labyrinth. So Labyrinth is now the number 2, which makes a lot of sense actually, because it's a deck that doesn't really care about a bunch of the hand traps that people are playing to try and stop the biggest threat right now, which is Snake Eyes. More on that later. So being able to just not give a damn about these hand traps is pretty strong. As you can see right here, they are playing triple Transaction Rollback. So essentially this card just copies another trap in your graveyard and also gets around the you can only use this once a turn type of issue. So you can literally do like Big Welcome and then just Transaction Rollback and reactivate the Big Welcome, which is absolutely crazy. Now one interesting thing was that I think the Duelist Cup thing was won by Ryan Yu, who wasn't playing Rollback from what I saw. I don't know, I would have to double check, but so as you can see here, three times in 52% of decks only. So half the lab players are actually not even using Rollback yet, and yet it is still the second best deck right now. Beyond that, we also see Nadir Servant being a thing in half of these players' decks, and then we have the funny hee hee haha 1 skill drain in 1/4 of everyone's decks. Now funnily enough, here in top extra deck, 1 in 34% of decks Kit Kalos. You can like, you know, the Dear Servant, Kit Kalos, mill 5 to get your furniture and Rollback in graveyard. Is that something people are doing right now? Let me know in the comments down below if you're playing Labyrinth and if that's something you're doing. And then on number 1, still by a landslide, of course, we have our fire buddies in Snake Eye. So Snake Eye was the best deck in our last top 5 list, and that has not changed because this deck really hasn't been hit at all. Interestingly, they will just refuse to hit this deck even though it's kind of necessary, as long as it's in the shop, which is, you know, leading to these very centralized meta games. The only change really has been that Labyrinth joined the fray, as it doesn't care about a bunch of the anti-Snake Eyes cards that people are playing right now. Now, without wasting too much time specifically on Snake Eyes, because we've discussed that already, I think the more interesting change that we're seeing is this Kashtira package a bunch of people are playing. It might say right here like 27% and 22%, which is about 1 in 4 players or so, but there's actually a bunch of people trying this specifically in the Duelist Cup as well, because people, I guess, assumed, oh, there's going to be a bunch of mirrors, and in these mirrors, these hand trap wars are really annoying. Just going like normal summon Snake Eye Ash, imperm, and then you just stare at the rest of your hand, you got nothing, and you pass. That feels awful. However, if you have to go in such a hand trap war with a Kashtira card that already baits that imperm or gets rid of your opponent's Promethean Princess in their extra deck, and now they can't cleanly OTK you, or you get, you know, you go Unicorn, they might Ash you, you get rid of like an Access Code Talker, maybe you get rid of Hida, whatever happens, these Kashtira cards are great in those hand trap wars. They also add a little more recursion right here, and they're also decent interrupts. I mean, Burv being able to just banish stuff from the opponent's graveyard face down is insane when you consider that this field spell and this OSS is gonna have to activate on your opponent's side. And then you just get rid of a bunch of these level 1s, you make Oak awful, you make Flamberge awful, maybe you get rid of a bunch of their follow-up by getting rid of the Wanted or maybe even the OSS on top. So Birth, really solid. And then since you play Unicorn, that's also just worth 2 bodies if you're trying to link climb. So this is something you really want to be paying attention to. Again, a lot of people are still on pure Snake Eye, but quite a lot of people are also starting to add that small Kashtira package, which is really the main development we're seeing in these decks. So if you see right here a top 8 deck from recently, we can see we have the Birth, the Fenrir, 2 Unicorn, and that's just a little bit more push through all those hand traps. So that was the top 5 best decks right now. If you enjoyed this, be sure to subscribe and let me know if there's a particular deck you're enjoying right now in Master Duel. I will see you soon. Ciao.